Hello and welcome, my Cairo Thought Leader friends. Welcome to the live Google Hangout for June 2014. I'm Dr. Tabor, and we have had a lot happen since we've last met, since May. Well, first of all, I'm proud to say that my wife gave birth to two beautiful baby twins, two little boys, and they are doing awesome. And so that was a lot. But secondly, we have completely moved platforms. Our new membership site is up and running. Most of you know that. Most of you have logged in. What that means for you and for the members is that you are all issued a new password. You should have been emailed that, and you should have logged in already, saw all the new videos that is up there. If you haven't, look through your emails to find your password, or even easier, go to cairothoughtleaders.com. Click on the login button, and then you can click on Forgot Password. You'll be able to create a new password for yourself. Just enter it twice, confirm it, and that will be your new password. It'll log you in to Cairo Thought Leaders. So other than that, I want to reiterate that we need to be sharing this site with as many people as we possibly can. There's so much value. I mean, just millions of dollars worth of value and just information that could literally change people's lives forever. So please share this with your colleagues. If you're on right now, share it on your social media, Facebook, Google+, whatever you're on. Share that you're on live on this webinar. And no matter where you're looking in from, if you're on our live events page or if you're on our Facebook page, there's comments. There's a section below that you can add comments. Please do. Let's get talking. Let's share this with everyone. If you're with us and you're watching from our new VIP app, and by the way, there's a new app for your iPhone and your iPad, so you get direct access to us every single time we're live. Then there is a link in the top right-hand corner. It looks like an email link. You'll be able to press that and ask any comments or questions, and we'll get back with you directly through email. So we're going to go ahead and start this off. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Chris Zano and let him introduce our speaker for tonight. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's Dr. Zano. This is a real treat tonight. And you know, when I think of Rick, who I'm about to introduce, Rick Sapio, I met Rick through Garrett Gunderson. Now, you know, I had a pretty successful practice, but it was based off my personality. It was based off just blood, sweat, tears, sacrificing family, sacrificing relationships. It was pushing the boulder up the hill type of practice. Then through Garrett, you know, I met Rick. He did something called a war room. With some amazing other chiropractors, and I sat there, and for the first time, I was literally blown away. I went to one of Rick's chiropractic business finishing school programs, blown away, and I sat there, and I was like, my life could have been drastically different because it wasn't just amazing business principles that were life-changing. They weren't just business principles, they were business laws, but it wasn't just according to business. It improved my business, of course it did, remarkably, but it improved my life. These principles improved my life, my personal life. It improved my relationship with my family. It allowed me to do things that could have possibly dramatically would have destroyed my family, destroyed my relationship with my family, and wound up just destroying my practice because eventually that boulder was going to fall over me. So when I talk about the word wisdom, especially business wisdom, the number one name that comes to me is Rick Sapio, because Rick has developed through trial, error, and experience amazing things. I'll have him talk and brag about himself a little bit. But when you hear the experiences he went through and the fact that I was able and honored to be able to literally listen to the wisdom he has had from his personal life through all the business and the people he has met in his life, this is a $1 billion Google Hangout. And I have a notepad. You need to have your notepad ready, have your pen ready, shut the door, put your cell phone on off, shut it off totally, and get ready for your mind to be blown. This will change your life. Otherwise, Rick wouldn't be here. So Rick is out of my thought leaders, you know, he is a top thought leader in my life, and I'm grateful, and my life, I can tell you, has dramatically changed because of Rick. So with that, Rick, I'm introducing you guys to Mr. Rick Sapio.
Awesome introduction, Chris. Thank you so much. I want to make sure everybody's got their feet on the ground and that you are centered and you are ready to learn something. It's impossible to learn something unless you're open to learning something. So, as Chris said, get rid of all the distractions. I want to read you my favorite quote, and Chris exemplifies this quote. I want all of us to exemplify this quote. It's from Marianne Williamson. It says, people who profoundly achieve, people who profoundly achieve aren't necessarily people who do so much. They're people around whom things get done. And I left a word out. They're people around whom big things get done. And so my hope for you on this call, on this hangout with Chris, and as we build a relationship together, is that you become someone around whom big things get done. I'm going to continue the quote. Mahatma Gandhi and President Kennedy were both examples of this. Their greatest achievements lay in all the energy they stirred in other people, the invisible forces they unleashed around them. Imagine inside your practice that the invisible forces that you unleashed around you made a line form around your practice, made employees and staff members come to you that want to work because they want to be part of what you're creating. That's what happens when you understand these principles, that you accomplish big things around you. But oftentimes people think that accomplishing big things means they have to work harder, and that's absolutely insane. And Chris alluded to one of the modules in the program is Billionaire Mind. I went around the world and interviewed billionaires. And one of the things that was interesting was I found that Warren Buffett and Richard Branson, those two people had over 150,000 employees, yet they had immense amounts of free time to go to China for 2 months at a time, etc. And you probably think, well, of course they could afford that. No, they've always been that way. They are people around whom things get done. And it's interesting, these people have immense free time, and yet we, running small companies, are running around like chickens with their head cut off. So I'm going to try to impart upon you what I've learned now at the age of 50 and having started over 20 companies, what I've learned about this the hard way. And Chris, thank you for being an unbelievable learner. I've learned a lot from you because of your point of view. Chris, as successful as he is, he's open to learning. His cup is never full. So I want you to take your cup and empty it and be open to learning something right here. So Chris, what do you think we should start with, the Superman syndrome?
Yeah, let's start with the Superman syndrome because that is a huge, I thought the Superman syndrome where I was the personality and I did everything, I thought that was a good thing, but I realized that it made me, enslaved to the office. It really ruined and potentially could have caused amazing disaster. So I think that Superman syndrome, let's start with that. I love that.
Okay, so this is highly interactive. This is module 48, and I'm sorry, module 17 out of 48 modules in the program, and it's called Superman Syndrome Quotient. I want you to participate. So I want you to take a pen, piece of paper, and write down a number from 1 to 10. I'm going to read 10 statements, write a number down from 1 to 10. A score of 10 indicates that you agree totally. A score of 1 means that you don't agree at all. So number 1, I have no problem delegating tasks and objectives in my office. I delegate even the most important objectives of the company to someone else. So if you do that, put 10. If you don't do that, put 1, and then grade yourself somewhere in the middle. I have no problem delegating tasks and objectives in my office. I delegate even the most important objectives in the company. Number 2, I spend the majority of my time, that means more than 50% of your working hours, I spend the majority of my time on purpose and strategy-related business objectives. I spend the majority of my time on purpose and strategy-related business objectives. 1 to 10. 10 means you spend more than 50% of your time on your purpose and your strategy, and 1 means you spend no time. Number 3, my business is relatively straightforward and simple. I rarely work more than 45 hours in any week. Number 4, I am very confident that my business employs the right executive leadership. Notice I didn't say staff. I'm very confident that my business employs the right executive leadership. I don't need anyone else to round out my team. 1 to 10. Number 5, my business and personal life are both debt-free. I love this one because people always come back and say, well, I have debt because I have a business. I say, would you rather be debt-free? Well, of course I'd rather be debt-free. Well, if you're debt-free, you're a 10, and if you're not debt-free, grade yourself from 1 to 10. I have learned to implement simplicity, probability, and leverage deep into my culture. Now, if you're part of the program, you know what that means. The 3 most important values, we call it the decision-making lens. Every decision that one needs to make in business, if they want to grow a growing, profitable, sustainable, saleable business, which all of you should want to do, growing, profitable, sustainable, saleable business. If you want those things, because what I've heard from so many chiropractors, more than 800 have been through the program, many of them, they get to age 55, 60, they can't work anymore because they hurt themselves, and then they have nothing to sell because they didn't build a growing, profitable, sustainable, sellable business. So to do that, you have to implement a decision-making lens. We believe in our 3 most important values are simplicity, probability, and leverage. Simplicity is you've simplified everything in your business down to the most important moving parts. Probability is all about only doing things that will increase the probability that you have a simple, profitable, sustainable, sellable business. And leverage is leveraging yourself through other people and other entities. So I'm going to read number 6 again. I've implemented simplicity, probability, and leverage deep into my culture. Grade yourself from 1 to 10. Number 7, I belong to an accountability group, and I rarely miss weekly meetings. It was unbelievable how many of the 26 billionaires that I interviewed over that 2-year period, how many of them were in weekly accountability groups. If you don't have accountability in your marriage, in your business, I mean, how are you going to be held accountable to anything? Easiest way to lose weight is to have a training partner or a trainer. You got to have accountability. So number 7, I belong to an accountability group and I rarely miss. Number 8, this is interesting. 1 to 10, grade yourself. I can't remember the last time I was stressed or reactive in the office. Number 9, each quarter I sit down with my leaders and we agree on quarterly objectives. Then we assign 5 objectives to each employee and we clearly track the company and the employees and how they're doing on each objective throughout the quarter. 1 to 10. And number 10, I feel that I am on purpose and that my business has a clear purpose statement and a corresponding catalyzing statement. And I could say more about a catalyzing statement later. But grade yourself on that one, 1 to 10. And now just add up your score. I'll just give you a moment to do that. Now here's the interesting thing. The scores are just like school. A 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 90 is a B. You get the point. Under 70 is a failure. 97% of people that take this the first time have less than a 30. Here's what we've learned. Each 10 points that you increase your score is a double of your income. And what we found is that people that take the program in the first year, they increase it by 20 points. We've had so many people that do the program, put it on the ground, and they're finding their Superman syndrome quotient score go up. Now, why do we have this Superman syndrome? Why do we call it that? Because Superman is something that we think we need to be, or Superwoman. Our name's on the door. This is my business. I make all decisions. I know who has a special deal. You don't. And what it does is it completely alienates our staff. It alienates the people, the lifeblood of our life, of our business, of our livelihood. Superman is a horrible symbol for us. And there's a great Crash Dummies song, and the name of it is Superman Never Made Any Money. And if you're being Superman and you got your ego on that door, and this is my business, all you're doing is adding stress to your life. And all you're doing is taking away empowerment of your staff. So, Chris, I wanted to take you through that because that module and that exercise touches many aspects of the program, from catalyzing statements to delegation to management by objectives to rhythms, etc.
No, I was a 76.
That is awesome. That's one of the highest scores. So you were
I
probably
know
around
some of those.
50 when
Yeah,
we
I
first
mean,
met.
but that really got me was do I feel stress free? Like, I have been stressed and reacted to something in my office in the last week. So they're in there, man. I mean, and I'm always, I'm constantly trying to improve. But I mean, that came a long way from what it was. I appreciate that. That was a great test. So hopefully, when most of you guys saw that and you really added up, because a lot of times we try to guesstimate it, but when we have something we can measure, that's huge. Because the best thing about it is, like, I love learning from areas of weakness because that shows me areas I can improve on. So don't be afraid of that. Don't avoid it. Look at it, absorb it, do something about it. And well, that goes into another module that you have is the battleship module, the battleship principle, which is another module. We won't have time
Can
to
I
get
touch?
into.
Let me just touch on that for one
Yeah,
moment.
do it.
This is a funny thing. We call it the battleship principle. And what's coming to mind right now before I get into that is, why am I on the phone with you? How did this all happen? And about 6 years ago now, I was introduced to Patrick Gentempo. He asked me to be an advisor to his company, and then we got into an accountability group. And I've had my holding company now for 21 years. I had a Wall Street background before, and then I started a holding company, and we've invested in 75 companies over the last 21 years. But before we write a check to invest in a company, we look at about 100 businesses in depth, and some not so deep, but some very deep. So we have deeply analyzed 7,500 businesses, and that is outside of the other entrepreneurial ventures that I've done. So I've gotten to learn the hard way what works in business and what doesn't work in business. And so Patrick said, why don't you teach this stuff to chiropractors? And I had never had an adjustment in my life, not one. So he's like, well, let's start there. And so now, fast forward 6 years, I've got 4 children. I'm 50, but I've got 4 kids ages 4, 3, 2, and now 4 months. We are in the chiropractor's office every week. The last 2 were born drug-free, and I've gotten to teach 800 chiropractors what I've learned the hard way in life, mostly from mistakes. So I'm on the phone because I love your profession. I love that you guys fixed my back pre-surgery. I almost went in under the knife, and I feel like $1 million, and so does my family. So thank you guys, and I want to teach you guys so you proliferate, stop fighting with each other, because when you're all successful, you'll stop fighting. And then on top of that, my life's purpose is to inspire entrepreneurship. I have my catalyzing statement, which is, if we get into it later, I could tell you guys how to have your own catalyzing statement. But mine is a successful entrepreneur in every home. That's what I envision. So anyway, but as it relates to the battleship principle, this is so funny that people are surprised when they get sued. They're surprised when something bad happens in their business. They're surprised. Well, I've got news for you. Without a shadow of a doubt, over the next 5 years, something will change in my industry. I will be involved in a lawsuit. A storm is going to come over the horizon. 100%. 100%. I loved when I asked Richard Branson, who's got 350 companies, I said, are you involved in any lawsuits? He goes, you mean big ones, like with governments? Yeah, about 75 right now worldwide. Champagne? Meaning, of course it happens. It's going to happen. And what happens to most of us in small businesses, we act like it can't happen to us. So we don't have the battleship principle to protect ourselves when that happens. Instead of having a battleship, we're in the middle of the ocean on a dinghy by ourselves, and we get surprised when a wave comes and knocks us over. So first thing you have to understand is bad things will happen to you, period. Now, what we're trying to teach you, both Chris and I, to do is understand these principles and build a moat around yourself. So when it happens, you're protected.
Awesome.
Got a tickle, so I got to drink this. So where do you want to go from here, Chris?
No, I love it. And so that is a Superman principle. Now let's go into rhythms, because another thing I really so we're talking about having all this time. So having all this time, well, really the rhythms and rituals really allowed us to be able to do that and delegate it. So let's talk about rhythms, because you're great with rhythms, and that was something you really taught me with that. So let's talk about rhythms, because I know a lot of doctors, they're just they have this to-do list, and they're just going on, and they're just, it's like they're very busy, but they're not very successful.
Yeah.
So they think they're busy, they think they're doing something, but in reality, they feel they're hitting the ceiling, and they're like, well, how can I see more people and work double the time? Like it's almost like there's they feel like they can't squeeze another ounce of time. So that's where rhythms are really important, and not only just in the business aspect, but tell me some of your rhythms, even family-wise.
Well, I hope this sore throat goes away, but I believe that 80% of your calendar should be rhythmic. What does that mean? It means when you look at your calendar, you should know when you work out, when you have date night. I was hoping that this wouldn't happen, Chris. Why don't you talk about how you're I'm just going to take a break for a minute.
I got it. Rick's coughing up a lung. All right, so rhythms. So rhythms basically, for me, I take out my Google Calendar and I make an appointment for everything. So, because most people, it's amazing when you see a woman who has an OBGYN appointment September 23rd at 1:15 p.m., that's in there. They're not missing that. And so when it comes to our rhythms, each and every week, I block off like rhythms. Rhythm meaning that every week, I'm having a call, or every 2 weeks I have a call with Rick. Every 1 week I have a call with Dr. Gentempo. So I have my calls that are in there. They are appointments. I'm not doing anything else in that area. I have my rhythm of date night. That's a Saturday night. We have daddy date nights. So Friday, I take my son Justice, the older one. I take him to karate. I watch him there. Afterwards, then there's daddy date night. So we either go see a movie, we get something to eat. So that whole night, it's blocked on there. So my staff, when I give them my calendar, they know they're not putting anything in that area. So I have these reoccurring events. I know when I'm working. I know when I'm working out. So everything is scheduled because I have an appointment time for it. So, basically, if I don't have a plan or an appointment for that thing that's very important in my life, all these things are also supporting my top objectives that I want to be able to accomplish. They're not taken away. And then everything else, the little space that's left over, that's when the staff knows to fill out things, or I might fill them up with something I have to do, or the to-do list. But like if I have a to-do list to do, I don't just work on it every day. There's a very specific time that I engage my mind in thinking about that. So it's these multiple things. It's literally having a calendar. When you look at the calendar, it really opens up a lot of free time. Because structure, I had a video, you guys, when I see it, talking about structure gives you freedom, and rhythms totally gave me freedom.
I want to be sure that we talk about, as it relates to this, 5 ways to pay all employees, too, on a rhythm. But what's interesting is about 15 years ago, well, before I say that story, I want to say one thing. I am shocked at the number of chiropractors that I meet that will blow up their schedule at any point of time, day or night, to handle something that's unrelated to a rhythm. So I'll talk to a chiropractor and I'll say, what are your hours? Well, on Thursdays we meet from noon to 4. That's the only time I adjust. And I say, well, can I come at 10? Yeah, well, let's do that at 10. And that's insane. There is no way to build a long-term, sustainable, profitable, saleable business unless you've got rhythms in place. We all hate McDonald's food, but the reason why McDonald's is successful is for 70 years now, they have rhythms and systems in place that a 16-year-old can open it up in the morning and close it at night and send all the money up to the mothership because they have processes and systems and rhythms. I was involved in an organization about 15 years ago, and I was thrust into the chairman role of a nonprofit, and they had chapters all over the world. And the Dallas chapter was dead last in so many categories. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know a lot about the organization. So I called a meeting of the leadership, and I said, I learned this trick, and I'm going to try it with you, and I'm suggesting that you do this, and you might have a breakthrough if you do this. I took a calendar. In fact, well, I'm not going to find it in my files below, but it was basically 1 month, and it had 30 blocks on it. So imagine just a calendar page, and I strung together 12 of those pages, January, February through December, and I said, what do you guys do in this organization? Well, we have membership drives. When do you have it? About 4 times a year. Why don't we make it the third Thursday of every quarter? So third Thursday of January, third Thursday of April, third Thursday of whatever. When do you guys send mail outs? About once a month. Why don't we do it on a fixed day? When do you guys have board meetings? Well, it depends, maybe 6 times a year. But the bottom line is we were able to put an item or 2 or 3 on every single solitary date on that calendar. It took about 3 hours. I took that calendar and I did a master calendar, and I blasted the whole organization. So everybody knew on January 1st this happens, on January 2nd this happens. When there's an event, 3 weeks prior, we send an invite out in the mail. And I am not exaggerating when I tell you that this particular chapter of this nonprofit went from last in the world to first in 2 years. And the point of that story is your business has rhythms. Imagine if you took your staff and your key vendors and you laid out a vision and you said, let's establish a heartbeat of this business. When are our management meetings? When are our staff meetings? When are our membership drives? When are our health clinics? When? And it's rhythm, so you don't have to think about it. My wife and I never, ever think about Monday night, 7 o'clock, date night. We know the restaurant, the babysitter's in line. Never have to think about it. It's a rhythm. It's a heartbeat. My trainer knows when I'm showing up the 4 times a week that I go and work out with him. It's a rhythm. Now, I'm going to tell you, and this is a stretch, you can have 80% of your day completely rhythmicized. And here's what's happened to most people. Oh, I can't do that. The funniest thing is when you guys tell me, I can't be in a weekly accountability group. I'm like, really? You can't? Why not? Well, I'm too busy. I love accountability. I'm in 3 separate weekly accountability groups. And in the last 6 years plus, because one I've been in for 20 years, but 6 years plus, I've only missed a handful of times. I'm not exaggerating. Because it's part of my heartbeat. My heartbeat makes my body go. My rhythms make my business and personal life go. And once you do it and you start that rhythm, the flywheel starts going, and it's amazing. All of you have time for all of the things that I just talked about. Workouts, date night, staff meetings. So I said before, this is going to lead into the 5 ways that you should pay all of your employees. So at the beginning of every quarter, like a rhythm, it's on the calendar. Everybody knows we have what we call is a quarterly staff meeting. And in that quarterly staff meeting, we announce the quarterly objectives for the company. So now everybody knows what they are. Each staff member then has to pick 5 quarterly objectives that align with the company's quarterly objectives. So now the company knows what its 5 objectives are, and each employee knows what their 5 objectives are. Do you know the biggest complaint with employees? They don't know what the company's purpose is, they don't know what the company's objectives are, and they don't know what their objectives are, and therefore they quit. It's so freaking simple. Company's objectives, which align with your purpose, my objectives as an employee. Now, what are the 5 ways to pay every employee? 5, really simple. 1, base salary of some kind. They know what they're getting paid. 2, company bonus. And what I mean by company bonus is everybody gets the same thing. And Chris, I know you've implemented this. It could be so simple. Team, if we accomplish these 5 company objectives, everybody gets $500. That's simple. And if we accomplish these 5 and everybody gets $500, then we all go to dinner at the nicest restaurant in town. That motivates everyone. They feel part of a team. I had a chiro tell me, I can't afford to pay 500 bucks a person. I go, that's insane. If they make you an extra $50,000 because that was the quarterly goal, you can't pay them $500? Oh, you mean I could have quarterly goals tied to revenue? Yeah, you can do that. This isn't like rocket science. And so the point is you have an opportunity to, to move providence by creating 5 objectives that matter to you, that matter to your patients, that matter to your staff. So now, 5 ways to pay people. Base salary, company-wide bonus. Then number 3 is individual bonus. If you accomplish your 5 objectives, you get X. And X could be a percentage. And then number 4 is something long-term. It could be an insurance policy that they get in year 10. They get a check for $10,000. It could be ownership in the business. It could be something like that. And then number 5 is benefits. Some kind of benefits. People want to work for a company. They don't want to work for the man or the woman. They want to work for a company, a brand. When you have your name on the door and people work for the man or the woman, you'll always be the man or the woman. You want your staff going home and talking to their spouse and saying, honey, help me get these 5 objectives because we get a bonus. You don't want them going home and talking to their spouse and saying, oh, it's a horrible day. I'm working for Superwoman or Superman. I don't know my objectives. I don't know what I'm being held accountable to. So those are the 5 ways to pay. I'm going to repeat them. Base of some kind, company-wide bonus, everybody gets the same thing. Individual bonus based on my individual objectives for the quarter. Some long-term objective of some kind, like I said, it could be you putting money away. It could be in year 10 you get 1% of whatever's in the bank account, something to keep people. And then lastly, benefits of some kind. So they work for real company. Funny story, Sherry is my friend's assistant. I love Sherry. And I'll never forget, it was about 6 years ago. I'm on the phone with Sherry, and she goes, 7 more years and I get my cruise. I go, what is that? She goes, well, in year 10, Brett's going to send me a cruise around the world or to Europe. I can't remember exactly. And I remember Brett telling me over lunch one day, he goes, you're not going to believe this. This woman busted her butt for years because of a lousy $15,000 cruise I was going to get her, and I will get her. But the point is, people want to know what the cherry is, what's long term, and it makes them feel part of something. And Superman syndrome makes us feel separate. So that quarterly rhythm is so important to our culture, and everybody knows about it. On top of that, I want to tell you some more quarterly rhythms that we have, and daily rhythms and weekly rhythms. We have a daily huddle every day. We simply go over what are the 5 things we're going to get done, and we try to push that down in all of our organizations that we're involved in. And I have to tell you, it's really hard. And it's hard because of Superman. Superman doesn't want to do it. And what I will tell you about this, how to make it really, really easy for you is look at the values of your business. Have rock solid values. Look at the purpose of your business. Look at expenses of your business. And if you can't figure out what objectives to give your staff members, assign somebody each of your values. So, Mary, from now on, you're in charge of integrity. And I want you every quarter to come up with a value around integrity. You're also in charge of this line item on the expenses. You're in charge of keeping our marketing expenses low. So now Mary's got a job responsibility. In addition to working the front desk, she's in charge of keeping expenses low. She's in charge of a value called integrity. And there's ways to have that part of people's job descriptions so that they can come up with quarterly objectives really easy, because it's so funny when you guys come up to me and say, I don't really know what quarterly objectives to come up with. And then they sit down with me for an hour and they have 700 to choose from, coming from all different areas of the business. So we have rhythms around daily huddles, rhythms around quarterly objectives, rhythms around celebrating. Oftentimes we don't celebrate enough. Rhythms around all the different functions of our business, marketing day, recruiting day, when to interview, when to hire. And like I said, you'll fill a calendar filled, and 80% of that calendar each day will also be filled. So you have 365 days filled. And here's what's so good about this. You don't have to be Superman anymore. You hand that calendar to your best employee and you say, you're responsible for our heartbeat happening. And that's it. So I'm giving you some simple things to implement. I promise, Chris, it will be full of stuff that they could put on the ground, meaning you. And I don't know how much more we can fill them with, but Chris, I'll follow your lead.
No, I love it, man. So you're getting that voice back pretty good. It's coming back. Let's talk about. Um, we can either do catalyzing statement or management by objectives. Which one do you want to do?
Let's do catalyzing statement.
That was great. So, Rick, well, yeah. You talk about what it was. You did a TED Talk on that, which was awesome. I wonder how many people saw your TED Talk. Is it on your site?
It's on the site, yes. If you just go there, it should be right on the front page. But I think it's TEDxTalksRS.com. It'll take you right to it. TEDxTalksRS, RickSapio.com. Here's the bottom line. If you're going through your life waiting for your purpose to hit you over the head, you're going to die unfulfilled. You have to pick your purpose, choose your purpose, and grab it. Just like you chose your spouse, just like you chose your career. You've got to have a purpose. My purpose is to inspire entrepreneurship. That's the main reason why I'm on this call, is I want to inspire you. I want to inspire you to be a better entrepreneur. So what the TED Talk was about, it's called Purpose 2.0. Choose your purpose. Once you choose your purpose, you then got to convert it to a catalyzing statement. And a catalyzing statement is something we've actually trademarked here years ago. It's a statement that emotionally hooks your stakeholders. Let me give you an example of some catalyzing statements. President Kennedy, when he inherited the White House, he was competing with the Soviets to get into space, and the purpose was to beat the Soviets. He knew that wasn't going to work. And if you think back to my quote at the beginning of the call, which is, people who achieve amazing things don't do so much. They have things happen around them. And JFK was brilliant at this. He knew he needed something to catalyze stakeholders, so he simply said, we will send the man to the moon and return him safely to Earth by the end of the decade. Do you realize that 100,000 engineers that knew nothing about the space program were catalyzed into action? And here's the crazy thing. He died 8 months later, and it still happened, meaning you do not have to work your ass off anymore. You don't. And that's the biggest misconception. And we will teach you exactly how to stop the insanity, yet double and triple your revenue at the same time. So that's what that catalyzing statement achieved. Another thing was a sleepy little Swedish automobile company. They made crappy cars, which they will admit, until someone said, you know what? I want this company to build the safest cars in the world, and that's what we're going to stand for. And Volvo went from nothing to being a major global brand from that catalyzing statement. We build the safest cars in the world. And then some guy named Fred Smith, I could give you a dozen of these. He came up with a catalyzing statement when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. 250,000 employees later is FedEx. Started with one simple idea. You have the ability right now to stop the insanity, pick your purpose, and then relate it to a catalyzing statement. So my purpose is to inspire entrepreneurship. My catalyzing statement, which is my get to, is I envision a world with a successful entrepreneur in every home. It's that simple. What do you envision? What world do you want? Don't you want health for the world? Don't you want to fix children? Here's the thing. When you're really clear about what you do, I have a friend, an acquaintance that works on children in their chiropractic practice. It's so easy to refer that person because they're clear about what they're passionate about. They're clear about their purpose. They're clear about their catalyzing statement. It's easy to refer them. It's hard to refer a chiropractor that's all things to all people because you're really not sure what they stand for. So your referability goes through the roof when you're clear about your purpose and you create a compelling catalyzing statement. Watch that video and it will cement this home for you. There's more examples on there, One thing that I love, I'll just finish this thought, Chris, with this point. Bill Gates, his first purpose was he wanted the most recognizable software company in the world. And that was more about him. But how do you make it important to your stakeholders? And he said one thing that I believe changed the world and radically increased our productivity, which led to technology, which ultimately led to us having this call, I think, because it helped propel the technology revolution, what Microsoft did. But he had a very simple thought, which you can do. It's just a set of words. He said, what? A computer on every desktop. 5 words. A computer on every desktop. And he said that when there was very few computers. All it is words. And so if you have your feet firmly on the ground and you're listening to what I'm saying and you're putting these very simple things into practice, creating a catalyzing statement of purpose, using management by objectives, paying your employees 5 ways, stop being Superman. But here's the interesting thing. You can't put them into practice. You have to have accountability. And that's what we've built into the program is accountability. We've learned that there's 3 ways to have permanent change. You need all 3 ingredients. Number 1 is the principle or thing you want to do, like lose weight. Number 2 is the implementation of that. How are you going to do it? And number 3 is accountability. If you don't have all 3, and most people have the first 2 and forget the last one. If you don't have all 3, you might as well just go back to your office and be the one-legged paper hanger, whatever that statement is, and be Superman for the rest of your life. At some point, I believe everyone has to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what? I'm done. I want simplicity, probability, and leverage. I want it now. I have learned in life, and this is my last thought on this, that people don't make the same mistake twice. They don't. They normally make it 20 or 30 times. And I'm asking you to stop. Realize that in business, there are foundational principles of business. And unless you have that foundation built and it's solid as a rock, then the walls above that foundation, which is your business, they're going to crumble. You've got to have the foundational principles of business baked into every aspect of your life and your business and your molecules, because if you don't, it will be difficult. And that's it.
Rick, that's awesome. So, I mean, that's 3, I mean, just those 3 modules alone, I'm just going back to those, they're huge. And you also talked about, because a lot of people do ask, well, how do you bonus your employees, or how do you just all those things right there. You see, these are principles. So whether you're a chiropractor, not only could change your life, but or a CEO of a $500 million corporation. These are business laws. These are business principles that were gained through experience and wisdom and knowledge that you saw from other people. And that's your one. So, Rick, for everybody out there who's watching, and just think that, like, so how can they get access to more of these modules? Tell them how they can get access to the modules. And also, your boot camps are great because they're full immersion. And so, because the modules are amazing, and you can watch those and learn from them. I took literally, I mean, I have a file on my computer of every module. I watched a module and took notes, watched a module and took notes, and went back and back, because each module has things I could apply. But also the full immersion of the boot camps that you have, when they are, parts of the year, and then how we can access it, and how everybody here could access and get to one of those.
Well, I first want to say, one thing I love about you is, as busy as you are, you finding time to implement and do the homework, because as a chiropractor, you don't get business training. It doesn't exist. And the business training that does exist in chiropractic is all about marketing. And the interesting thing about marketing is marketing sits on top of the foundation. So I love this chiropractor I met a couple of years ago who was so excited about this new marketing plan. He wanted to tell me everything about it. I said, Mark, that's phenomenal. Thank you for telling me that, but why are you going bankrupt? And he's like, oh. And the point is, you've got to build that foundation. So the easiest thing to do, if you're open, if you're not open and you think you know too much, just get off the line, no problem. But if you're open to truly changing and learning foundational principles of business, go to joincbfs.com. I'm sorry, join, can you put that up, Alan? Join cbfsnow.com. I actually put it on a piece of paper so you guys could see it. It's really simple. And we've got your picture up there, Chris. And CBFS stands for Cairo Business Finishing School. Join cbfsnow.com. Ashley had put something in place. If you do it now, right now, you sign up, you get $100 off your first month. It's only $229 a month. It's got all the guarantees. You can read about it online. 800 people have been through it. It's 4 years old. We're starting to scale. I'm loving it. I'm loving the emails. I'm loving the people calling me and crying, saying it changed their life. I just love every aspect of it. So that's what you do. Now, if you're in the program, you have the ability to go to a boot camp. We have them twice a year in Dallas for 2 days. The feedback from those boot camps is immense. People love it. But the boot camp is more about, if you're in the program, it reinforces it. We have some people, unfortunately, they're in the program. They don't have time to do the modules. They just go to the boot camps. And even those people are having an impact that's immense in their lives and in their business. And by the way, what's interesting about it is it's focused on business, but what we've learned is when you change how you approach business, it changes every aspect of your life. So we're seeing marriages improve. We're seeing relationships with kids improve because they get on the rhythm of, date nights with their kids on a regular basis, etc. And Alan, Alan, are they seeing the group chat, or is that just for me?
Yes, they're seeing that.
Okay, cool. So really simple. Join cbfsnow.com. I hope you do it. I'd love to shake your hand at the next boot camp in Dallas, which is September 15th, that weekend. It's 2 days. It's at the Marriott Quorum, and it's our 7th one, I believe. So I love doing it. And it was funny, prior to me doing this program, I was never really out in the public, but you guys pulled me out there, and I've been having a lot of fun doing it.
That is awesome. All right, so everybody, you see that right there? You take advantage of that immediately. I mean, this is just, like, you know what? You're not going to understand what I'm talking about or how it affected. Like, you're not going to understand my emotion towards what Rick's wisdom has done in my life. You're not going to understand any of that until you experience it for yourself. So I could sit here and I could tell you my testimony with Rick, or I could tell you that I did this module and that module and changed my life here and there, and I could show you the stats, but it's like, Dad, you're just hearing it from me, but when you go through the experience of it, that's when you'll understand what I'm talking about. And I even told Rick, and I'm going to be absolutely honest with you guys, when I looked at this information, I told Rick, I'm like, I personally think the price is too cheap, because I mean, someone's going in for a couple $100 worth of information, but it's like, I went to seminars, there were thousands of dollars a ticket. Some are selling them for $10,000 or $20,000 a ticket, that don't have this amount of information, wisdom, and experience. It's the experience, it's the failures, it's the mistakes that I don't have to make anymore because Rick went through them, or he's been around people who went through them, so we don't have to do it. And so this is why, this is really, it's do it for yourself, and love yourself and do it for your. It's not just for your business, but it's for your family. It's for your sanity. And you know what? I could go on all day long. But until you do it and experience for yourself, then you actually understand what I'm saying. So like I said, out of all my thought leaders, Rick is considered one of my top thought leaders. And thank you so much for being a blessing in my life. And hopefully for your wisdom, you'll be able to be a blessing for even more people on this Google Hangout right now.
Awesome, Chris. Do you want me to say any final words, or are we done?
Close it off, man. What do you want to leave us with? And then Dr. Tabor will close it out.
I just had a thought because of a death in the family, and I wanted to share with all of you why I'm so passionate about this stuff. So I'm the 7th of 9 children, and my dad, I used to go to work with him because I just loved working with the guy. And I remember when I was 11, he came home for dinner, and he never really made it because he was supporting 9 kids. He never made it financially, but he announced to the family, he said, I want you to remember everything that I taught you about business because you're going to need it, because I'm dying of cancer. And when he died, I was 13. And you have to understand, there's 9 children. We're living in Hoboken, New Jersey. My mother had never worked before. And he lost all his money on medical bills. So it left us with nothing. He went bankrupt just before he died. So the year's 1977. I'm 50 now, and he died, and we had nothing. But what did we have? He taught us how to be entrepreneurial. So I remember from the age of 13 when I started that bicycle business till now, I've been beating the drum of what my father taught me and what I learned the hard way, and it hasn't been easy. None of it's been easy. But what I've learned is when you stop repeating mistakes, when I stopped repeating mistakes and I started learning and leveraging and using simplicity and probability, things started happening. And the last 10 years have been fantastic. But it really goes all the way back. And Patrick always says, I like when you say baked into your modules, I mean into your molecules. This information has been baked into my molecules over the last 50 years, and I want it to be baked into your molecules as well. And Chris, I love how you've absorbed it into yours. So I just wanted to say that because we had a death in the family, and it got me thinking about my dad and how his legacy has become my legacy, and I'm sharing with you what he shared with me. So that was my final parting words.
I appreciate that, Rick. Thank you. All right, Dr. Tabor, close it out.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Rick. Absolutely amazing. And I'm going to put one more final cherry on top and just announce that we have released the training videos with Rick Sapio, our thought leader videos. So if you go to our website, chirothoughtleaders.com, log in, you'll see 11 training videos from Rick Sapio, and that link, join cbfsnow.com, will be below every single one of those training videos, and you can go directly and sign up from there as well. Dr. Zano and I flew out to Dallas, and Rick was generous enough to donate hours of his time to give this training to the chiropractic thought leaders. So please go through every video and learn this. He's giving of himself and helping us to develop a business mind. And so for that, Rick, just personally, thank you very much. I appreciate you. And for all of you, I'm going to send out an email tomorrow, of course, with our replay and with the links to those videos. But right now, go to joincbfsnow.com and get signed up. And we will see you again on the next live Google Hangout. Thanks, guys.
God bless.